Welcome back to another episode of Success After Trauma, where we bring on special guests. And you guys know, our listeners that have been listening for a long time, you know how it goes. And if you're just listening for the first time, we bring in special guests and we share their story of what the challenges they've been through in life, what the aha moment was like, what the journey looked like for them, and how they're serving those that are one chapter behind today. Our guest today is Jeffery Davis. Jeffery Davis is a coach, and he works with helping people create legacy. He helps successful entrepreneurs tap into their inner power, wisdom, and purpose to exponentially increase their results, health, and fulfillment, and have better relationships. He uses a combination of small habits to create significant change with specific shifts in mindset and embodiment practices to achieve alignment and identified values and legacy. This is what it's all about, creating that alignment and learning who we are. This is one of my favorite subjects. Jeffery, would you kind of take us back to the beginning? Tell us, like, where did this all start from? What even brought you to the place of becoming a coach?
Sure. So it's been interesting. I guess if you were to look thematically at my life, you would see that my choices have been for sure career based, have been around involvement in human psychology, human behavior, and the story of resilience of the human spirit. So that's consistently been the theme. Originally it looked like it was going to take me down a route of traditional therapist or psychology, and the idea of that much extra school at that time did not seem appealing to me. So I mixed it in. When you mix that together with business, which I also enjoy, then you actually come up with marketing, and because it's got that blend of understanding human behavior. And then I took that into advertising, both on the advertising media planning end, where where a lot of the success of exceptional campaigns is about where they're seen, how often they're seen, because there's a threshold of the number of times. It's called an effective frequency, the number of times that an ad needs to be seen before it starts to impact attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. And that frequency at that time was the effective frequency was called 3 or more times. So we're talking TV, we're talking 30 seconds. So we're talking a total of 90 seconds that were judged and based on research that was used for significant brands, saying 90 seconds, 3 or more commercials would start to impact your beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors. Fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that and then deciding to step more into the business end of it and get involved in sales and executive management and building and working with startups and also on sales and advertising. So from there, I went to acting, which is being able to step into somebody else's experience without judgment, fully in empathy and understanding how they got where they are. So, but what I found was, for me, acting was a cathartic experience. It was a place where, in order for me to be good, I needed to heal some of the stuff that I had ignored. And so as I started adding to my innate abilities, unearthing parts of myself that I had covered up while in business, and really what it needs to do. I looked at what I wanted to make my contribution in the world. And knowing the impact of media, the effective frequency, knowing the types of stories that were actually being told and the angles they were being told from, which was more and I didn't feel like really creating a positive role model or putting positive energy into the world. I use my time best. And I decided that helping other people do some of the work that I'd done so that they didn't have to burn out and get to a place of success externally and a gap between how you internally filled with a lack of fulfillment, relationships that aren't working, the mental and physical health costs. At a certain point, you can only push for so long, and then things start to show up, and you start to get the bill for how you've been running on a low vibration fuel of just pushing, as opposed to being connected to the fuel internally, connected to your why, to your purpose, to the legacy that you believe that you're here on this planet to do. That's distinctly different than I'm making a bunch of money, or my 7-year-old decided I wanted to do this based on a wound that I hadn't healed, or society said I had a proficiency at this particular thing, and so I stepped into that. And at the point of origination, when you go on a trajectory, a small little amount that you're off doesn't seem like that much, but over time, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the gap. And that gap fills with a lack of fulfillment, overwhelm, stress, disconnection. So I help entrepreneurs, I help professionals who are at that point where either they're starting to burn out, it's starting to cost them too much for their mental, through their health, their mental and physical health. And I help them up level their performance by getting into a state of flow, connecting with their purpose, creating a legacy that they feel connected to. So actually, it's dropping the last rocket and empowering the next one so that you can just go through the stratosphere. So that these are skills and identity changes or on the field. And it's more about self-actualization. I believe that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is upside down. Actualization is part of all of it, right? It shouldn't be like the last thing. And if it's part of everything that you do, then you don't get to this spot of, okay, all of the skills that got me there are completely different than the skill that I need for the last piece, which is self-actualization, which is how it currently is. So that's what I do in a nutshell. I do it with small habits that make significant changes, embodied change habits and practices, and ways of releasing tension, tapping into and releasing trauma energy, and really connecting again with your inner wisdom and your essence so that it doesn't take as long to do things. When you're in a state of stress, when you're in a state of overwhelm, there's research that shows you lose a third of your IQ. So you're becoming stupid, or you're making decisions that you have to redo, or that are more difficult, or make your life more difficult. So that's what I do.
That's powerful. and the realization, like the neurological at a neurological level, like literally, um, I'm gonna do my best to use a different word, but maybe it just fits right in there. You become stupider by letting yourself stay in that moment, and it's it's just happening,
Uh,
but being aware of that is it's powerful because, like you talked about, people in business. Let's be real. We got to be sharp. We got to be ready to fire down at all times. And sometimes we think when we're in that flow state, okay, you know what? Sometimes we think we're in that flow state, but we're in that pre-burnout state, not really that flow state. Because that one,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. So it's there's an inner wisdom, a gut instinct, an intuition, if you will, that saves you steps in the process. Um, it's different from it's a skill set to be able to recognize that voice because it's not the loudest voice in your head, your
Mm,
gut instinct, and it doesn't repeat itself,
mm,
and it's not negative, right? So it's just very much an answer, and that's it. So it's
mhm,
not going to keep going over and over. It's not going to make you feel bad. It's not going to argue with you. So
mhm,
if you're confused, that's because your mind is arguing with what you know is true, right? So there's a level of truth that when you get tuned into it, that can actually save you a lot of stress, can save you a lot of work, can get you past a lot of error and a lot of issues. So, really, what happens is when you operate at this level and when you do the work that I help people with, it shifts your identity and you tap into your values so that you become the person that does or has the things that you want,
mm,
as opposed to you're still the same person, but you've done tactics and strategies to get you the things that you want to do or have, but there's still a gap, right? There's just a gap in a different way. And many times that gap gets filled with self sabotage or rebounding back, rubber banding back, because you're not aligned with that. A simple example is 95% of the people who go on a diet lose weight and then gain it back within 2 years. That's because those are changes that you're not truly aligned with. You have to see yourself differently. So I have a good friend of mine. Here's an example of that. If we just take weight as one of the examples, my friend said she lost a bunch of weight, and people were reflecting back to her, and they were acting different to her because of this shift in weight, and she didn't like it because she hadn't assimilated this is the new version of who I am. So then she gained it
mm,
back. She felt like there was a difference, and she wasn't okay with that difference.
mhm.
So that can happen in business. That can happen, and it shows up in burnout. It shows up in, to use an old phrase, things like midlife crisis, or acting out, or people stressing out, or doing avoidant types of behavior.
I
So
Oh, good, good.
yeah, so I can tell you that the first thing that the first piece of work that we do is on mindset, and also certain just small shifts and changes, both in terms of how you start your day and also certain
Mhm.
habits of how you operate through the day. They're super small. But what we do is we layer them in over time, and they have a significant impact in how you view the world and how you interact with the world, and as a result, how the world interacts with you.
I love your whole vibe. I love everything you're about. It's really clear to me just in the way that you share what you share. Um, you're to say your journey's clear to me. I don't know what your journey was, but it's clear that you've done the work and dove in and researched and tested things out. And I love this subject. I love it. Is recently I was actually sharing with my sphere how um, I think you may like this and love to hear your take on it. Well, I mean, and you've already shared that. Uh, I tell people, like, a lot of people have this. Some people are in alignment with abundance. We can't create abundance. We get to participate in when we have alignment. Okay. And some people are in alignment with abundance and they understand the law of attraction. And other people look at it from the outside and they're like, is that really a thing? And to the people that are sitting on the outside, to the people that are like, well, whatever you're thinking, right? If you're on the outside, I was just having this conversation the other day that the law of attraction is not just that we can attract what we desire. It is also that we've attracted all that we have. The law of attraction is not something we can participate in. It's something we choose to consciously participate in. It already is in existence and is already in play in all times in our life. Now, it's just my projections. I'd love to hear your feedback on that, Jeffrey.
Sure. I've got a couple points on that one. So, the law of attraction seems like it had its moment, and it seems like it kind of bifurcated into woo woo or people who embrace it, right? And so I think the easiest way to kind of look at the law of attraction is two things. First is when you buy a red car, all of a sudden you notice all the red cars on the road, right? It's not like there's more red cars. All of a sudden your awareness has opened up, and that's the first place. So when you have an awareness of opportunity and you're looking for opportunity, it comes to you. You see it everywhere. When you are looking and seeing life negatively, you see it everywhere. It's not like with 8 billion people on the planet, there isn't something wonderful happening every minute and also something absolutely atrocious happening every single minute. It's all happening at the same time. And we choose what we're going to focus on and what we're going to look at. And if we're going to create something or if we're going to only exist to push against something and rebel. And so if we're pushing against something, we actually start to assimilate the same energy just as if we are creating something, we start to assimilate that energy. So it's important to focus on what we want versus what we don't want, because we start to assimilate either one of those energies, right? So if we're fighting war, the action is the same. It's just the focus is different, right? There's a fight. I'm fighting the fact that you're fighting, or you're fighting for some reason. So that's the first thing, right? That there is an opening of awareness that presents opportunity. And the second thing that's super important that a lot of people miss, and it's literally in the word, the law of attraction includes the word action. So you need to do something. And part of that is opening your awareness, but part of that is stepping into that. So embracing that and acting as if that is what's happening. So creating opportunity, being open to opportunity, listening to opportunity. And that is part of the action. So those are the two things that I think really make a difference. I do believe that, whether you call it law of attraction or whether you call it an empowered approach to life, where you take full responsibility, full accountability for your experience of life, without blame, without, either internally or externally, and without, I couldn't help that. Well, you might not be able to help something happening. Do you become bitter as a result of that experience, or do you become better as a result of that experience? So your approach really creates opportunity, or can inhibit opportunity, absolutely. And it can also create health within your body, and it can create issues in your body. So your mindset is super important.
Super important. And I love talking about literally double down on what you just said. I do use the label law of attraction. I've never studied law of attraction or haven't done any works with Proctor or any of those. What's it, Rhonda Byrnes? I think she was the one that wrote the book. But just that the, like you said, the energy, we call it, we can label it whatever, the energy exists. And I love sharing with people, because again, like you talked about, like some people could look at it as, is that woo woo? I tell people that one of the ways I like to say it is, I say I might be the most pragmatic healer you'll ever meet, because I dabble in a little bit of both sides. Like, we got to be real, and I love getting a little woo woo. But to help blend them, like something I share with people is the reticular activating system, the RAS. And for the guests that always hear me talk about this thing all the time, but for those the first time, something you can Google, you can hit in RAS. You're looking for reticular activating system. It's a physical part of your brain, so it exists scientifically. We can touch it, see it, feel it. It's in the 3D portion of the world. Our mind, all this information I'm saying is public information. We can Google it. Our mind's taking in up to 2 million bits of information every single second. And then we're only consciously aware of about 126. The number 2 million is pretty agreed upon. The number 126, some people say it's 128, some people say it's 130. The difference of 2 bits of information is so minute, it doesn't even matter. So to put it in perspective, if I had 2 million playing cards and put them in piles of 126, I'd have 16,000 piles in front of me. Now I'm ever so slightly exaggerating up, but 16,000 piles in front of me. So at any second, I'm only looking in one of those piles. So there's 16,000 other versions of reality, but only every second. And then what I tell people is the RAS. So what you talked about, the RAS is what controls, you saw one red car, so you see more red cars. The way I tell people, the RAS is like a bodyguard for the mind. And so 2 million people line up every second to get in the Club Greg, but only 126 get in. And the RAS is the bodyguard that picks. And so the RAS, like, how does it know which 126 get in? And the RAS lets in the 126, metaphorically speaking, the 126 people with the most evidence for that which you believe to be true. So we've all heard the saying, you got to believe it before you see it. There's actually a neurological and scientific thing going on inside of your brain that is letting you see it. Like you spoke on, Jeffrey, and we look at the 16,000 piles of cards. There's a pile of cards in which we're winning beyond our wildest dreams. When we believe that to be true, the 2 million bits exist every second. We don't get to see all of it consciously. Unconsciously, it exists. Consciously, we don't get to see it all, but the RAS is sorting through all of it for us. It's our own little assistant. So if we believe we're going to be successful, what does that mean, right? Subjective. Beyond our wildest dream. And by the way, what does that mean? We got to get specific. The RAS is actually looking for the evidence of it every single second. That's just wild. Go ahead, Jeffrey. Yeah. What do you got on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to me. There's studies where what they did was they sat down people and they showed them a slideshow with various slides. Some were pretty, kind of puppy dog, wonderful pictures, and then some of them were horrific. And then they hooked them up so that they could measure their stress responses and blood and everything else. And so they would notice that before the horrific picture, that there would be a reaction in the body. So that there was a knowing and an anticipation that somebody most of the time was not aware of, but even sometimes it shows up as like a feeling, a bad vibe or something like that, even before somebody walks in the room or anything like that. So we all are familiar with it. We may not recognize that it's happening, but there's research that shows that it happens. And, the mind is that powerful, but the mind also, research backs this up. There is a placebo effect and a nocebo effect. So you can enhance something that is effective and make it more effective. You can enhance something that is statistically neutral and make it effective. You can also decrease the effectiveness of something that is proven and make it less or not effective based on your belief. So yeah, I mean, by doing that, I believe that, however you want to say the mind is doing that, or maybe it's tapping into one of those other 16,000 opportunities where the medicine is super effective, or maybe it's not effective at all based on what they're choosing.
Mm. That's so, I'm so glad we hopped on today and had this podcast. It is so powerful, and I'm just excited to be sharing that message. We have the power of choice. We have free will. Whatever your belief is in higher power, we have free will, and it's like such a beautiful thing that we only barely tap into. Thinking about like, what do we want in the future? Until we, like, I frequently ask people that question, and frequently people say, well, I don't know, or some vague abstract thing that they've held for a while, that when they say it they get a good reaction, so they've kind of held that one in their pocket. um and the realization is, well, it hasn't been created yet. You couldn't possibly know. Allow yourself to imagine and decide what you want. And we just have an innate power that we're just not tapping into. So now let's dive a little bit back into, so your journey took you into coaching. Now, how long have you been coaching for, Jeffrey?
So I I, I want to go. I want to go into like the nuts and bolts in that, but there's something actually that you made me think of also.
Please.
And it's referring to a conversation I was having actually earlier this morning. So we're all, I think we are, and it's measurable. Our thoughts are electric, our emotions are magnetic, right? We can measure our heart energy out 8 feet, 6 to 8 feet, but that doesn't mean it doesn't go much further. So I like to say that we're meat antennas, sending and receiving information, right? So like if I'm sitting here and somebody walks up behind me and I can't see them, sometimes I can feel them. I turn around and somebody's looking right at me, right? So we can feel things, and it's important that we know that we can actually, as one person, have an impact on other people, but as other people working together, our collective is as if you string a whole bunch of batteries together. Now all of a sudden you can go from one battery powering a toy, to multiple batteries powering a room, to multiple batteries powering a house, a neighborhood. As you put more and more of that, there's been research that showed a group of people meditating outside of a city during that time period, it decreased the violent crime within that city,
Mm.
right? So as you start to put the collective into a focused intent together, you can co-create an experience for many, many people that can be positive or negative. So we have a personal responsibility to, both for our lives, for our health, mental, physical, and financial and spiritual health, to think and to embody higher levels of emotions, no matter what the circumstances are happening around us. It doesn't mean gaslight things, and say that things don't happen, but it does mean have a process so you don't swim in it forever,
Mm.
so that you can hold a vibration. So I almost look at it like there's two ways that you can operate. You can operate in a place of reaction, where it's like, okay, that was good, that was bad. That's a good emotion, that's a bad emotion, that's a good experience, that's a bad experience. Or you can operate above that, where you are simply grateful for all of the experiences. knowing that a quote unquote bad experience, let's call it now a difficult experience, can be one of your biggest transformational movements in your life trajectory the entire time that you're on this planet.
Mm.
So, looking at life that way, it's easier to see how you can live in a place where you're in a state of gratitude, which is a portal to higher emotions, to
Mm.
love and joy and connection.
There's so
So
much.
when
Oh,
when
good.
again when you're yeah, when you're tapping into that with personal responsibility, you have an impact. You have an impact on your health, you have an impact on your trajectory, you have an impact on other people around you. And whenever other people see that model or feel that energy, they can make a choice to either movement, and it starts to shift the collective evolution of the planet.
Mm. That's powerful, powerful. Only within the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, I might be being a little generous to myself. Only within the last year and a half, 2 years of my life have I begun to understand the power of gratitude. And it
Mm.
has begun to just love all over me in my whole entire life. It has been incredible. I've now made gratitude an active practice in my life. And Jeffrey, I'm assuming just based on the vibe that I get from you and from everyone else listening, that's another one that there's been a lot of studies done with, um, where there's people. I've heard studies where, people doing active gratitude processes, whatever those may be, and I'm going to say only, 3 times a week, because you could get into this up to every day or multiple times a day. You could, but at just 3 times a week, I don't remember the study, so I'm not quoting, I'm not citing it, but the changes were just like when you research the study, you're like, what? Like that was just from 3 times. There was massive changes just from people accessing gratitude once a week. I actually haven't seen active studies of people doing gratitude 7 days a week. I'm sure they exist somewhere. But I've first, I overheard people talking about morning routines, and then someone shared a morning routine with me. And then I started doing a little research about this gratitude thing. And I was like, there might be something there. I started implementing in my life. And man, our frequency changes big time. I like you worded it. I didn't catch it to quote it, but you said, gratitude was an access to, and you said, how did you say that, Jeffrey? Gratitude was an access to
Grat-
what?
grat- Gratitude is a portal to higher emotions.
Higher
I
emotions.
mean, yeah. If you want to be playful with words, it's a spiritual G spot.
Hmm. Love it.
You
I love
know,
it.
it's the place that just takes you to another level. You can't be grateful. You can't be grateful and be sad at the same time. You can't be grateful and be mad at the same time. You can't be grateful and be resentful at the same time.
I,
You
you
can't
know,
be grateful and be unfulfilled at the same time.
I love that. Something that all of those, something that I had tapped into just like a little bit. I actually I share with people like when we have, because fear is a universal emotion. Fear will show up for, I'm gonna suggest, everyone at some point in time in their life, and probably more than once. And we don't actually get, um, like if we want to be happy, we choose to be happy. But fear is one of the universal emotions that it kind of just like, ta-da, you get a little of this. Obviously, we date back far enough as a protection mechanism, so on and so forth. So sometimes fear shows up for us, and it's just like, hey, friend, I'm going to be part of this party. And you're like, hey, I didn't invite you. When we can access, appreciation or gratitude, so like sometimes it could be in the beginning of people's journey. I'm projecting here, reject this if this is not for you. In the beginning, the word gratitude can be daunting. And if you find yourself in that situation, replace it with the word appreciation. And it can be either way. You can remember a time someone appreciated you, or you appreciated someone else. So literally in a state of fear, you can think about, when's the last time I did something that someone appreciated me for, or what is something that someone did for me that I appreciate. As soon as you begin to tap into that, and you start to connect with that emotion, literally new chemical serotonin, new chemical start. Because when fear comes in our body, there's chemical releases. Our adrenaline, our cortisol begin to release, and vice versa. When we get into that gratitude appreciation, the serotonin and dopamine begin to release, and immediately begin counterbalance. Now, earlier I said the most pragmatic healer, because I'm on both sides. I like to offer a little bit of that evidence for, but gratitude is powerful. Just for everyone listening, I'm new in it. I'm an infant in gratitude, and it has exceptionally rewarded me in my participation.
There are so many ways that you can use gratitude, and you're right about the study. There was a study that just doing gratitude for a couple weeks as a daily practice and then stopping had a significant impact on a measurable basis 3 months out, 6 months out.
Mm.
So it's a game changer, and you can use it for there's if you're looking to improve relations with somebody who's difficult. You can look at it to shift your relationship to an experience that may have brought some trauma or have been difficult for you to process. Because when you start to uncover the gratitude for that experience, it may not even be the experience. It may be the learning that I'm never going to have that experience again. It may be the learning of, okay, because of that experience, I'm stronger.
Mm-hmm.
This type of person, or maybe not to cross the street this way, or whatever it happens to be. You can really shift everything with gratitude.
Everything. I mean, whole life can change. Jeffrey, this has been incredible getting to have you on. Now, are you actively do you actively still take is your so let's talk about your coaching business for 1 second,
Sure,
if we could.
sure.
Are you I'm going to fire off like a couple questions at you at once, if
Yeah,
that's okay.
cool.
Do you work? So what is tell us a little bit about the platform in terms of, are we doing one-on-one only? Do we do one-on-one and we also do other forms of group? Are we virtual only, in person only, a combination of both?
Sure,
Let's start there.
sure. So I've got two programs right now. I'll be launching a group program in the late fall of this year. But right now, the programs that I work with are online only, and that I've been doing that for a while. So that's one-on-one, online only. And then the second program I work with is I live between Coronado and San Miguel de Allende. I don't know if you know San Miguel de Allende, which is in Mexico. It's called the Heart of Mexico. It's built on rose quartz. It's a historic city. It's 1,000 feet higher than Denver. So it's high desert. It's beautiful, and it's cobblestone streets. It's magical. So with the other program that I have clients come down here as part of an intensive, in addition to the support pre and post that with the online program. So that's a pretty transformational opportunity, and I get people who show up for that are next level entrepreneurs and people that want to shift where they're at and up level relatively quickly. So the work that I do does help people get out of the linear thinking and more into the exponential knowing, right? And that's where the relationships improve. That's where the health improves. That's where the flow is. And that's where the vision and the legacy live. So on some level, I'm helping people get out of their heads into their hearts, which is interesting, incorporating the location of a city called the Heart of Mexico.
Mm,
that where the symbols are essentially hearts everywhere, and it's built on rose quartz, which is a heart
mm,
activating
mm-hmm.
energy for crystals. So I interestingly enough didn't know anything about this town, and then followed my intuition to be here. And as soon as I got here, I was like, okay, this is why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
This magic happens here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as soon as you said it's built on rose quartz, I was like, what? I'm like, everyone's
Hmm.
got to be in tune with their heart space over
Oh yeah,
there. You can't
yeah.
not be.
It's pretty legit. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a portal for creation. I mean, you
Yeah,
get that experience here, and then you have that embodied experience and you take it back. So it's pretty amazing.
it's powerful. Now, are you actively taking on clients right now in your business?
I am. I'm also I've got a pop-up training that's happening on June 13th. And so that's going to be focused on the same things that we're talking about. Legacy and tapping into your inner power so that you're not experiencing stress and overwhelm. Um, so yes, I am still working with some new clients. I've got 2 additional spaces left for this first half of the year, and yeah, so I'm
Perfect.
excited
Now,
about it. Yeah,
what about so the mini you said you have a mini course coming up, is that right? On June.
yeah, pop-up training. Yes, pop-up training on June 13th.
If any of the listeners that have connected with you, they're just vibing with the energy, they're like, hey, this is need to get a little bit more. Where can they access information for that pop-up training?
Sure. So the easiest place, and they can just send me an email and I'll automatically register. Either they can go onto Facebook and then that'll ask for their email, or they could just email me directly, which is Jeffery at inspiring-breakthroughs.com.
Beautiful. That's so it was Jeffrey dot inspiring dash breakthroughs.com.
It's Jeffrey, Jeffery at inspiring-breakthroughs.com.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So the name of my company is Inspiring Breakthroughs. So we just got a hyphen between the two.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you're listening to the audio right now, you can go to YouTube and check out our beautiful faces on the video. Our channel's Success After Trauma, and we're going to have the hyperlinks for everything in there, as well as Jeffrey's email address, so you can access it right there just by going to YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can download the audio from your favorite podcast streaming platform, so you can listen to this over and over again in your car, working out, or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. Jeffrey, I appreciate getting to have you on this podcast today. It is I connected with your heart space. It was powerful, and I appreciate everything you shared, and just allowing yourself to be on here and allowing me to have your energy on this podcast, and all our guests to get to hear it. Now, before we wrap up, I always ask a guest to kind of give like a final thought message, and then if you will, I'll just kind of channel. Let's say, so would you share a message to speaking to um, an entrepreneur that is achieving success right now, that is winning as far as winning in business goes. So
Hmm.
financially, the business is expanding. Um, but inside, they go home at night and they know that they have not self-actualized. They know that they do not feel their purpose yet. Would you just share? Let me remove just. Would you share final thoughts speaking to that entrepreneur that's listening today?
Sure. I would share 2 things. Number one is in your purpose and your legacy is your fuel, and is your joy, to be honest with you. And the second thing is I can help you do that rapidly.
Mm,
That's the work that we do, where we line people up in alignment, and with small habits help them embody this shift from who they are currently to who they believe that they're here to be, and live that life.
that's powerful.
So yeah, it is powerful stuff, and That's the one thing that people say after working with me. I'm not the same person that I was when I started.
Mhm.
So, and that's
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And for all our
Yeah.
listeners, again, check out our, if you're on the audio, check us out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, check us out on the audio. And until our next episode, be great. It's already in you.